Hello, welcome to the fourth section of this audio class on how to become a published author. My name is Ikwago Igwe and I am passionately driven to see young people discover, develop, and fulfill their purpose in life. In this fourth section, we're going to be discussing how to turn your sermons into a book, particularly for pastors or people who regularly give speeches. But come to think of it, I am not just talking to pastors because someone will say, I am not a pastor, I am not a preacher, but every one of us have a message, like I earlier said. There is a message you have that is you are burning within you to pass across to the world. And that means you are also a preacher. There's something you want to pass across. It is verbal. So we're going to look at how to turn this verbal message that you have into a written book. But I'm going to look at pastors as a case study or preachers as case studies. If you are like most pastors, you are a very busy person. Maybe you see other pastors writing books, blogs, or articles, and you wonder to yourself, how in the world are they pulling this off? Transforming a sermon series into a book takes some time and thoughts, but it is not as daunting as it might seem. Many preachers like me do this on a regular basis. The best sermons to turn into a book are those sermons that are done in series. What I mean is that the sermons that take a particular thought line and begin to stretch it day one, day two, day three, or per session, and it becomes a series that progresses with time. I'm not saying other sermons that are not in series cannot be turned into a book, but I'm saying the ones in series are easier to be turned into a book. Based on my years of editorial experience with busy pastors, I would like to share 4 tips with you on how to turn your sermon series into a book. Tip number 1. Map out the main points of your sermon series. All preachers have a method for how they prepare for their sermons, and there are probably as many methods as there are many pastors. Here is a simple way to think about preparing for your sermon. Map out your plan. Think through your one big sermon idea and a couple of supporting points you want to make. This may seem obvious, but verbal communication doesn't always translate well to the printed page. And that's okay. No, this means you need to have a logical flow to your ideas so that they make sense on a page. If you start outlining your idea in well thought out written form, you can refer back to these big ideas later to help give your future book cohesion. In seminary, it is common to hear in basic homiletics to apply the 3 a.m. test to a sermon. What is a 3 a.m. test? You ask. Well, if a congregant woke up at 3 a.m., what is the simple, memorable phrase they could remember that conveyed the meaning of your message? Apply the 3 a.m. test to the main ideas you hope to get across in your book and aim to be concise. Tip number 2. Write manuscripts for your sermons. This tip goes hand in hand with tip number 1. Again, not all pastors prepare in the same way, but if you can prepare your sermons from a manuscript, you will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You will have thought through your sermon carefully and concisely, and you will have spent time flexing your writing muscles. Even if you use an outline system to preach from in real time, writing out an entire sermon as part of the process helps with precision of thoughts and will give you a written record you can reappropriate for the purpose of your book. Tip number 3. Have your sermons transcribed. In order to have your sermons transcribed, you at first need to be prepared to capture the audio recordings of your sermons. For me, each time I stand up to preach, each time I stand up to give a sermon, I usually go with my smartphone and I put on my audio recorder. This helps me in a long way to listen to myself after the message, to know areas where I need to improve, to know areas where I make repetitions often, to see areas where I need to improve my communication skills. And if you already have these recordings, then take the extra step to have your sermons transcribed. There are many repeatable, accurate, and fairly priced services you can use to transcribe your sermons within a week or less. Once you have these transcriptions, set aside time to edit the material so it reads well. Tip number 4: make writing a regular part of your schedule. This tip builds upon the above. Even if you don't fancy yourself a writer, make a habit of time each week to go through the exercise of putting your thoughts together in writing. This will go a long way in strengthening your writing muscles. If you can commit to writing every day, even if it's only 20 to 30 minutes, you can do this by editing your manuscripts or writing a manuscript of your sermon. Whatever activity you do, if you keep at it regularly, before you know it, you will have lots of written material to use for your future book. Writing is a legitimate call of pastoral ministry, and turning your sermons into a book is an excellent way to express a specific mission and message you feel called to communicate. I have listed out 10 common mistakes for preachers when they are trying to make a material making or when they're trying to get your book published from their sermons. Number one mistake: many preachers lack the use of the you power in their works. Since the goal is to help readers, try to use the word you 10 times as often as I. What I mean is, where you have the word I, try turning it around to become you. Let the focus be your reader and not on yourself. Number two mistake preachers commonly make is that they forget to have a personality. To develop a relationship with the reader, sprinkle your manuscript with personal stories, at least one or two per chapter. The third mistake preachers commonly make is that they fail to grab the reader's attention. After writing a chapter, pull out the best illustration and move it to the beginning. Start strong. That should be the key. The key should be capture your reader from the onset. Number four mistake preachers usually make when they're trying to turn their sermons into a book is that they need to use a thesaurus. If you are writing on faith, vision, or any particular theme, don't use the same word over and over in successive sentences or paragraphs. Find synonyms to get your point across. Also, if you use an unusual word once or twice in a book, it is ideal and perfect. The fifth mistake preachers usually make when trying to turn their sermons into a book is that they shout instead of speak. Only rarely should you use words or sentences with all capital letters. It is like shouting at the reader. Instead, use italics for emphasis. Also, keep exclamation points to a minimum or they will lose their impact. Number 6, they need to give the reader a break. Usually, many preachers don't give the reader a break in their works. I see far too many long passages. Readers are easily bored, so keep sentences and paragraphs short. Also, I like to use a subheading at least at every page or after 2 or 3 paragraphs. I introduce a subheading. It gives the reader a breathing space. Number 7, they believe their words are chiseled in stone. God may tell you what to preach, but be open and flexible when it comes to recommended edits. Trust your editor to make wise decisions, even though you should always have the final word. Number 8 mistake, their title lacks life. The book I the book that was produced for Benny Hinn was originally to be titled Person of the Holy Spirit, so I heard. And I heard it was later changed to be Good Morning Holy Spirit, and it sold million copies. The new title had imagination and life. Take a moment and compare both of them. The person of the Holy Spirit and Good Morning Holy Spirit. Number 9 mistake. They design their own book cover. Get a professional to produce 2 or 3 possible covers and tweak the best one until it can compete with any bestseller. Research shows that the cover of a book is 80% of the sale. With these few points, I believe I've set you on a path to start seeing your sermons not just as audio messages, not just as a time to sweat and shout, not just as a time to get it across to your members, but as a time to produce a book. Because with a book, you have something tangible that can last for a long time. I encourage every young person here who preaches, who has a message to pass across to the world, start thinking of your messages, your verbal communications as potential books. And when you do so, we'll fill the world with books. And when we fill the world with books, we're going to fill the world with many readers. And when we have many readers that are young, that means there is a future for young leaders in this life. Because readers are leaders. Thank you for staying with me in this section. Stay tuned for the final section, which is most interesting. I know you're waiting for it, and that is how to turn your book into money. How do you monetize your book? And most especially, how do you get your book to be selling on Amazon, the #1 bookstore in the world? Stay tuned as we conclude this audio class. Thank you for staying by.